Let me start with a claim that sounds ridiculous. A muddy, ugly, underground vegetable did more to reshape the global economy than most kings, wars, or gold rushes. Not wheat, not rice, not sugar. A potato. This isn't feel-good history.
Ow.
This is uncomfortable history. Because if it's true, then it means human civilization isn't driven primarily by ideas, morality, or even ambition, but by calories, biology, and incentives we barely understand. Here, said the mystery, how did a crop nobody wanted at first end up fueling population explosions, industrial labor, empire building, and one of the deadliest economic collapses in modern history? Done. And more importantly, why are we repeating the same pattern today with different potatoes? To answer that, we have to stop romanticizing history and follow the cause and effect chain exactly where it leads, even when it's ugly. The potato didn't come from Europe, didn't come from Asia. It didn't come from the centers of ancient wealth. It came from the Andes Mountains of South America, modern-day Peru, and Bolivia over 8,000 years ago. This matters. The Andes are brutal. High altitude, thin oxygen, freezing nights, unpredictable rainfall. Wheat dies there. Rice is useless. Corn struggles. The potato survives. Why? Because the potato is a biological cheat code. It grows underground, protected from frost. It stores massive calories in a small space. It reproduces clonally predictable, uniform, reliable, tolerates poor soil and extreme climates. Like for Andean societies, the potato wasn't food luxury. It was survival infrastructure. They didn't just eat potatoes. They engineered them, selecting thousands of varieties for altitude, soil, and season. They even invented freeze-drying chuno centuries before modern food preservation. This wasn't primitive farming. It was systems thinking. But none of that mattered to Europe. When Spanish conquistadors brought potatoes back to Europe in the 1500s, Europeans hated them. Why? 3 reasons. It wasn't in the Bible. Suspicious already. How it grew underground. Associated with dirt, disease, and the devil. It didn't fit feudal agriculture. You couldn't easily tax or control it. European elites preferred wheat because wheat is visible, taxable, and centralized. Potatoes were invisible and decentralized. That is the first economic lesson. Systems resist technologies they can take control of if those technologies are better. For nearly 200 years, potatoes were dismissed as animal feed, famine, food, or curiosities. But then pressure hit. By the late 1700s, Europe had a problem. Growing populations, limited farmland, frequent famines, rising military and industrial demands enter the potato. Here's the brutal math. An acre of potatoes produces 2 to 4 times more calories than an acre of wheat. Potatoes provide vitamin C, potassium, and protein. They grow fast. They require less labor. This changes everything. Suddenly, families can feed more children. Children survive to adulthood. Rural labor surplus explodes. Cities fill with cheap workers. This isn't ideology. It's biology driving economics. Between 1700 and 1900, Europe's population more than doubled much. Of that growth correlates directly with potato adoption. Historians argue about causes of the Industrial Revolution. Capital? Institutions? Ideas? But here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't get factories without workers. You don't get workers without food. And you don't get cheap food without the potato. The potato didn't create industry, fed it. Now, we reach the breaking point. Ireland embraced the potato more completely than any society in history. Why? British colonial policies restricted Irish land ownership. Wheat and livestock were exported to England. Irish peasants were left with small plots and little choice. The potato was perfect. High yield on tiny land, minimal tools fed entire families by the early 1800s. 1/3 of Ireland's population depended almost entirely on potatoes. Many ate nothing else. This is where efficiency becomes fragility. Because the system optimized for one variable, calories per acre. And when you optimize for one variable, you create a single point of failure. In 1845, a fungal disease, Phytophthora infestans, hit the potato crop. Within weeks, fields rotted underground, entire harvests collapsed. Seed potatoes were infected too. But here's the lie you've been told. The Irish potato famine was caused by a plant disease. That's false. The disease triggered the crisis. The The economic system caused the catastrophe. During the famine, Ireland continued exporting food to England. Landlords collected rent. The British government refused large-scale intervention. Over 1 million people died. Another 1 to 2 million emigrated. This wasn't starvation from scarcity. It was starvation from policy, incentives, and indifference. The potato didn't fail Ireland. Ireland failed because it built a hyper-efficient system with no redundancy. Sound familiar? How a vegetable redrew the WRLD, the consequences were global. Ireland's population collapsed and never recovered. Irish diaspora reshaped. The United States, Canada, Australia labor markets shifted. Urbanization accelerated. The famine permanently changed. Views on colonialism, attitudes towards centralized food systems, tease the relationship between the state and economic survival. But instead of learning the real lesson, diversification and resilience, industrial societies learned the wrong one. They learned to scale efficiency even harder. After the famine, scientists and governments said, we need better crops. So they reduced genetic diversity, standardized seeds, optimized yields, centralized production. The result? Modern agriculture is built on monocultures, corn, wheat, soros, just like Ireland's potatoes. Today, over 50% of global calories come from just 3 crops. Most are genetically similar. Supply chains are fragile inputs. They depend on fossil fuels and geopolitics. We didn't fix the problem. We scaled it globally. The potato wasn't the last system that optimized itself into collapse. Modern potatoes include cheap just-in-time supply chains, single-source manufacturing, garbage-driven markets. Each one increases short-term efficiency. Resilience creates hidden systemic risk. When COVID disrupted supply chains, shelves emptied in days, not because of scarcity, but because systems had no buffer. Same logic, different crop. Here's the uncomfortable conclusion. Economic systems don't collapse because people are evil. They collapse because incentives reward efficiency over resilience. The potato made Europe richer, faster, and stronger. It also made parts of it brittle. That trade-off never went away. Final TAKIAWIOI's takeaway 1. Calories drive history more than ideology. Beliefs don't scale without food. Productivity starts in the soil, not the Senate. Takeaway 2. Efficiency without redundancy is a time bomb. Every optimized system hides fragility. If you don't see backups, you are the backup. The famine revealed a broken system. It didn't create one. Potato rewired the global economy once, not because it was powerful, but because humans built everything around it. The real danger isn't the next crop failure. It's the next system we convince ourselves is too efficient to fail. History doesn't repeat because people are stupid. It repeats because incentives don't change. If this video changed how you think about economics, history, or the systems you depend on every day, subscribe and ask yourself one hard question. What's the potato you're depending on right now, without realizing it? It's because history doesn't warn you before it breaks you.